Shalom, shalom. All right. First and foremost, facing the east, giving all praises, honor, and glory be to the Heavenly Father and His Son, Yahawah, Sham, Yahawashi, Sham Kakadash. Those are the true names of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Yahawah equals He is, He exists. Yahawashi equals He saves, He delivers. He is salvation. And Kakadash equals a spirit that's holy, a spirit that's set apart. Okay. Those are the names you want to call upon in the Lashawan Kadash in the Paleo Hebrew, right? Because that's the purest form of language. So you want to call upon those names when you pray, when you know, anything, right? Those are the names right there that you need to make it and to along with the doctrine, understanding, and faith and works, all right, to get up out of this place that we're in, man, to go into a chariot and to leave this hell, okay? This kingdom of wickedness, all right? Second, I want to give double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of the Great Millstone. Shalom to the Lord's hopeful elect. As always, all right, this lesson is brought to you in the spirit, power, and strength of Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi Ba'ashem Kakadash. All right, I pray this lesson be edifying to the sheep. This lesson will be entitled Silence, Patience, and Being Choosy. Okay? Silence, patience, and being choosy. So it's important. All these things, really bounce off of one another. Okay? And patience, you got to use silence. All right? You got to wait. And let's get these words actually in the Edamon. Edamonline.com. Let's just go into them real quick. So silence, right? Muteness, state of being or keeping silent or forbearing from speech or utterance. State of being silent, absence of sound or noise, of being silent, right? Be quiet or still. So to be quiet, to be still, man, to just discontinue, to not be active in that sense. And sometimes not being active is the most active you could be. It's showing, right? What it's showing is self-control. Okay? Silence and patience is showing self-control. You have control over your speech, right? Next word is patience. Patience, quality of being willing to bear adversities, calm endurance of misfortune, suffering. Okay? So having patience that's a beautiful definition. The quality of being willing to bear adversities. Regardless if you want to go through Jacob's trouble or not, you got to go through it. Okay? 2/3, 1/3, regardless. Okay? But us having that patience, we have the quality of being willing to go through it. Well, these individuals, they don't want to be broke down to their last. They don't want to lose all their money. They don't want to lose family. They don't want to lose all this type of stuff. They want to hold on. They have these attachments where it goes to the hopeful elect forsaking, right, everything in this world and moving towards Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi. So we have the patience and then to endure. Let's go to Matthew 24. This is starting at verse 12. And because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold. Sin, at its base, is the flesh overtaking you. Right? That's what sin is happening. Is the flesh is overtaking the individuals, and they're giving in, and they're doing things that the Most High does not approve of. So iniquity, being sin upon sin upon sin, is lawlessness, right? Increasing. Iniquity shall abound. Abound means to increase. The love of many shall wax cold. So these people are going to be moving in haste without patience, without a sense of understanding, without consideration for their actions. And this is how most Americans move already, man. You know, they're on that, hey, they just move. They're just on a routine, just complacent on a highway to hell in a sense. Okay? Being hell in a state of mind. They're on a highway to a lower state of hell. They just keep digging their graves. You know, they keep digging themselves in wickedness and embedding themselves in more wickedness. All right? Verse 13. But he that shall endure until the end, the same shall be saved. So, in another word, he that has the patience, you have the spiritual stamina to endure. You know what I'm saying? You build up your understanding, your faith, and that all comes from Yahawah Shem Yahawashi. So those individuals ultimately are predestined. Now, with that being said, we don't know who that is. So therefore, you make your calling to the election sure. You put your best foot forward. Right? And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. And that's talking about this gospel that we're preaching right now. Not the wacky-tacky doctrine, not the virgin birth, not all of that type of stuff that has been preached for centuries. Okay? Christianity, we can all agree that it has spread all over the world, right? Then why hasn't the end come? No? All right? So you got to understand that the scriptures brought out the correct way and the proper way has to be pushed. All right? Let's go to Matthew 20. No, let's go to Matthew 19 and 27. And the legend reads, the disciples' reward. Then answered Peter and said unto him, behold, we have forsaken all and followed thee. What shall we have therefore? You know, and first of all, before we even go further, let me get disciples. Disciple, one who follows another for the purpose of learning, especially the personal followers of Yahawashi HaMashiach during his life. The 12 apostles chosen or called by him to be his immediate associates. All right? A biblical borrowing from Latin discipulus, pupil, student, follower, which is of uncertain origin. Okay? So we're following Yahawah Shem Yahawashi, you know, wherever he goes. In whatever situations that we have to go through. If he walking through the snow, we walking through the snow with him. We walking, it start hailing, we going through the hell with him. It's 110 degrees, we going through that with him. You know? So you have the discipline, because to be a follower is to have that discipline to go on the path of your master. So Peter was asking, you know, we forsaken all and followed thee. What shall we have therefore? And there's nothing wrong with asking what's our reward going to be, you know? And Yahawashi said unto them, verily I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And everyone that hath forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold, and shall inherit everlasting life. So going back to having that patience, it takes patience to endure. It takes patience to sit here and watch your people wither away constantly day by day and get worse. You know? Some of my people right now, they doing bullshit. But hey, gotta let them be. So it takes patience to go through that stuff, to go through all of this. And you're like, yo, why can't you see? But it takes patience for us to be vexed. You know, all this vexation, as Ecclesiastes states, or is it Proverbs? No, Ecclesiastes, I believe so. So all this vexation, all this vanity, it takes patience for us to live amongst the bullshit. Because we have to go to work, we have to go out in the world, we have to endure a backward society, an out of order society, a babal, confusion. And in that, sometimes, man, you just gotta be silenced. You just gotta practice silence. This ain't the time where, hey, the correction has been given to this planet, and it's being given constantly. And we do it in these type of settings where it's controlled. We hit the corners. You know, we do it in that setting. People can come up, ask, all right? They can ask questions, etc. We don't do it on their terms, where in the workplace, all right, or you go up to a church, ain't nobody in that church trying to listen to what we got to say. You know, they in that church for a reason. It's because they don't have the discernment to discern that this place is not of the Most High. Okay, what did he state? Let's go to Acts. So I would, don't go to these places and try to give the word to them. They know where we at. All right. If the Most High wants to draw them to us, then so be it. It's gonna be that. This is Acts 7:48. Howbeit the Most High dwelleth not in temples made with hands, as saith the prophet. So you can build your church. You can be big as you want it to be. You can have a massive parking lot looking like a football stadium. But that does not mean that Yahawah Hashem Yahawashi is dealing with you and your congregation. You know what I'm saying? It actually, most of the time, means the exact opposite. Verse 29, and everyone that have forsaken houses, let's read it again. Everyone that have forsaken houses or brethren, it takes patience and endurance to do these things, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. I was thinking about this the other day, and I was talking to my rib about it. These individuals, they don't learn from the mistakes of the past, where you got Greenwood, you got Rosewood, you got Black Wall Street, you got these communities that Jake's Israelites have built up. You know what I'm saying? And then they got destroyed, going to the extent of Black Wall Street being bombed. All right? I'm talking about military planes coming through dropping bombs. But then you got these Israelites that don't learn from these mistakes in the past. They don't understand this ain't the time of rest. This ain't where you build up communities and all of that. Okay? So if you're not learning from those individuals that made the mistakes of the past, and you're coming forth this day and trying to do the same thing that they did, you're in the mindset of a child repeating the same mistakes, still putting your hand in the cookie jar, all right, when you don't supposed to. You don't know the Father's will. His will is not for you to build a Hebrew Israelite community. You living off grid, but you're still on the grid. It's impossible really to live off grid. Unless you just, you just get up and walk. You walk to the middle of nowhere. That's really the only type of way. And then still, Esau has a record of you leaving. He has satellites, okay? If you drive somewhere and you talking about you off grid, that car has a chip in it. You have an RFID in that car already. So your movements is being tracked. All right? So this ain't the time where you rest. This ain't the time where you set up. You got these individuals trying to set up the kingdom. And they don't know the Father's will. Yahawashi stated right here, verily I say unto you that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory. So it's giving you already a time frame. It's giving you a qualification. It's talking about in the kingdom and in the regeneration, right? when that time frame is, as Yahawashi said, if this was my kingdom, my servants would fight. All right? We wasn't supposed to fight at that point in time when he came the first time. But you had groups back then, like you got groups now, like Sakari back then. They were known as daggermen, where they were like assassins. And they staged assassinations and stuff like that, all right, to take out Romans. And what happened to them? They ended up getting took out completely. You know, it wasn't the time to take over the Roman Empire. It wasn't the time for their kingdom to fall. You had Spartacus before that, or you also had the Maccabean period, you know, where Yahawah was with the Maccabees for a time period, you know, just to set something up. Shoot, the things that Spartacus did, that mess was crazy, and he was a Jake. You know, I don't know if he wasn't really in the truth or nothing like that. They wasn't keeping the laws, commandments, and statutes. But Yahawah allowed that fight to go forth. But as we see, it's through carnal means. So it wasn't the time period for us to overthrow this damn devil, man. This, what we're moving into, when the king comes back, that's the time period. That's your Psalms 148. That's binding them in chains and all of that. So it takes time. It takes time. And what is time associated with? Patience. So it takes patience to wait and not to move ahead of the appointed time. Verse 30. But many that are first shall be last, and the last shall be first. Just wait. You know? Just wait. Wait. That's the Father's will. Do what you're supposed to do. Bid them to the marriage. All right? And make sure you're doing your part. All right? And then other than that, you don't got to do nothing extra. You don't got to, I'm out here handing out book bags. That's not in the repertoire. That's not, where's that at? I'm out here, doing a soup drive. You know? It's not necessary, man. Now, yeah, charity arms to your ability. You do what you can. All right, but all that stuff that you see, the IU, I don't know, them guys doing all that type of stuff, where they're getting grants from the government and they're setting up all this. No, that's not it. You know? Now, I got 2 videos going more deeper into silence. And I'm playing right here. Fair use, fair use. I'm going to play. I'm going to be stopping hitting certain scriptures. All right, let's get it.
All profound things and the emotion of things are preceded and attended by silence. Herman Melville. In Western cultures, silence is commonly used as a means to show respect and recollect. One example prominent in Dutch culture is the Silent March that grew out of the silent Catholic walks in Amsterdam. This Catholic tradition was a reaction to a prohibition on their processions by the Protestant establishment. A march in silence, without prayer, singing, religious garments or attributes wasn't prohibited, and so a new ritual arose that survived to this day. As for the silent marches, often a response to senseless violence, people react in a way that transcends the many hollow words swirling around after a tragic event and our culture of noise in which violence so frequently occurs. Similarly, the annual remembrance of the dead answers the killing and murdering of all Dutch victims of wars and peacekeeping missions with 2 minutes of silence. It's silence that makes these rituals so powerful. There's no music, no words or singing to distract oneself from the purpose. Moreover, what better resistance to the deafening noise of war and the loudness of violent people engaging in mindless bloodshed is there besides silence? And when words aren't sufficient, isn't silence the most appropriate response? The power of silence is versatile. Silence can transcend speech, speak without words, and complement where verbal language is lacking. And keeping silent also has advantages in terms of creativity, mental health, spiritual and religious practice, achieving the upper hand in negotiations, and even as a way to intimidate. This video explores the power of silence, unfolding 4 benefits of being silent.
So why is silence? Why silence is powerful? As he said, stated certain things like, you have a moment of silence and all of that. All right, these things are just human instinct, human nature. Some things traditions. All right, because the body or the spirit that Yahawah poured out, they know that this stuff is important, man. All right, and just sitting in silence. You think about meditation, right? You sit in silence and you think, you meditate. Let's get that in Joshua first. What's that? 1. This is Joshua 1:8. This book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night, that thou mayest observe to do according to all that is written therein. For then thou shalt make thy way prosperous, and then thou shalt have good success. So it's the same, what they say, quality over quantity. Okay? Yeah, you got individuals out there, you may read the whole Bible, but did you really comprehend? Is the spirit moving with you? You know what I'm saying? And you look at these seminar schools, they're how you read the whole Bible in a year. All right, but you don't understand none of the breakdowns. You don't got, you're not learning nothing in those colleges. So that's why you go through something, you meditate on it, you pray about it. Furthermore, you can fast on it. You take time with it. You meditate on it. You sit in silence. Yahawashi constantly woke up early and prayed. When you pray, you're communicating. You're praying. You could pray out loud if you want to, but it's a thing coming out lately that I didn't even know this was real, but some individuals don't have an inner voice. They don't literally have a voice that's in their head where they're talking to themselves. Some people don't have that. That's crazy. So we have that. When you thinking, you observing and you thinking, you got thoughts in your head and you know. So that's important. Let's get this word. Let me see if I could get it in the etymology. Nah, it didn't come up, but I'll break it down. It's metacognition, and I'll just get it piece by piece. So this is meta. Okay, after, behind, among, between, change, altered, higher, beyond, in the midst of, in common with, by means of, between, in pursuit or quest of, after, next, after, okay, etc., in the middle, together. Then the next word would be cognition. And ability to comprehend, mental act or process of knowing. So meta, meaning after, all right, then cognition, the ability to comprehend. So you're just your afterthoughts. You're thinking about the thoughts that you just thought about. However that sounds, but that's what you're doing. That's what being metacognition is. And that goes into you being aware. That goes into you being considerate. You're considering, right? You're actually analyzing consequences, actions, and thoughts. It takes patience to do that. This is your brain is a tool that you're using to basically analyze and consider situations that you're involved in. Like when you're driving, you're looking, you should be practicing defensive driving. Hey, this individual to the right, he, go too fast, go too slow, or he might try to get over, he might not see me over here. You thinking about all this type of stuff. So you're constantly on the defense. And you're thinking about your thoughts. So being metacognition is important, man. Going back to Joshua 1:8, this book of the law shall not depart out of thy mouth, but thou shalt meditate therein day and night. So what you're taking in, what you're learning, what you're growing in, you're thinking about what you just read, you're thinking about this story, and you're applying it to your life. That's why when you go through certain things, a scripture might jump right in your head because this is what you read, and it comes straight to your mind, and then you apply it. That's how we got to move. That's moving in the spirit. You're referring back to the word of Yahawah Shem Yahawashi, and you're applying it to your life. Versus these people in the world, they're not thinking about what the Bible says about anything. They just do. They don't care about the book. All right. Salaki, keep going.
One, the quieter you are, the more you hear. The mystic and poet Jalal al-Din Muhammad Rumi once realized that the quieter we become, the more we're able to hear. From his mystical point of view, listening is essential, as Rumi tried to get closer to God and hear a quote-unquote voice that doesn't use words by being still. When we let go of all the words, we open ourselves up to other voices previously suppressed by continual verbal noise. These could be inner voices, as philosopher Ralph Waldo Emerson called the inner knowing, and outside voices and sounds that one misses because of a lack of listening. We can listen effectively if we keep quiet, inside and outside. By keeping quiet, we become receptive to our surroundings. We pay attention to what our senses observe, so we learn and eventually become smarter and wiser. If we refuse to keep quiet, nor listen to what others have to say, we only share what we already know and don't learn anything. The ancient philosopher Pythagoras once stated, "A fool is known by his speech, and a wise man by silence."
Ooh. All right. And really, he coming from the scriptures. Okay, a fool is known by his speech, and a wise man by silence. As the scriptures say, if a fool holdeth his tongue, he could be considered wise, loosely quoting. So it's important to, with your speech, think about what you're saying and consider the consequences of your words, because every idle word is being judged. Things that you say do have consequences. It's not just words, man. They say sticks and stones could break your, right? But words will never hurt me. Words are actually really at the top of the, power. All right, words are extremely important. So think about things, especially when you pray and you move and you pray in the Hebrew. All right, our words are powerful. Think about how everything was created. Okay, everything was said. Let there be light. Right. Let everything was stated in the Lashawan Kadash, and it happened. So words are important. They're not something to just throw around and fling around like they don't have meaning. Words have weight, right? And as a wise man, you will be shown by your words, the things that you say. Okay, let's get that. Let me get that. This is Proverbs 10 and 14. Just to go off of this Pythagoras, this dude was coming from the scriptures. Or people try to say it's their quote, but you got this from the Bible, man. Wise men lay up knowledge, but the mouth of the foolish is near destruction. Because they don't have patience. They say whatever comes to their mind, off rip. You know, being wise is not saying whatever comes to your mind. It's thinking about things. All right, you may perceive a situation incorrectly. Okay, I remember, man, I got off TikTok, right? I got back on there for a little bit, and this individual came through. He's like, man, I ain't seen you in a long time. I thought you fell out of the truth. I'm like, nah, I've been on YouTube. It's like, come on, man. You know, but people's perception, right, is just it's the human experience, okay, and you gotta factor that in, okay, that everybody ain't gonna be, what's the word, analyzing or doing a deep dive or anything like that. They're just gonna come off the rip, off of what they see and what they think, you know, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? That's why they say believe none of what you see, half of what you hear. You know? You got to take time with it and be patient and meditate and let it sit. Another example, perfect example. This war, okay? All the propaganda that's been coming out would fool these individuals, because if you heavy CNN, Fox News, oh, you a fool, because you believe in everything that they push out, which is all fake. But when you start diving into other countries, their news sources, you know, look at Iran, their news sources, look at, you know, people around the region, social media that's reporting, showing that Israel is getting bombed and tore up, Tel Aviv is upside down, you know, they nuclear facility just got hit, right? No Iron Dome to stop anything. So when you're witnessing that, you got to go back to CNN and Fox News and be like, y'all are lying. But you see how the perception was altered? That's what propaganda does, in major forms and minor forms. So you got to have the patience to search out and investigate a matter and to use some discernment. Or just be an idiot. I mean, hey, fall into your lot, man. All right? This is Proverbs 14:3. In the mouth of the foolish is a rod of pride, but the lips of the wise shall preserve them. Trump, extremely prideful, which makes him a fool. All right? Yeah, your president is a fool. Okay? But, hey, Tawada Yahawah Shem Yahawashi, because we need him to do what he's doing to get us up out of here. All right? By him going forth and being this idiot, being this fool, and just attacking and got everybody hating him, that's bringing forth prophecy, and that's the will of Yahawah, to bring forth prophecy. So, hey, I'm with him. Do what you gotta do, Nero. You know, bring that MOTB a little bit faster, man. I see you expediting the 6G bill, but hey, let's get it, expedite it more. Throw the whip. You know, swing that whip that you swinging. So his mouth, all right, he's a fool, is a rod of pride. It's full of pride going in, where he thinks we're America, ain't nobody gonna mess with us. But you picked the wrong fight this time, because you couldn't apply patience. Iran was trying to negotiate last year, but y'all didn't, you know, Israel want to attack. You attack one of their nuclear facilities, all right? And you talking about we blew up the bunker buster, we blew up the underground facility. You didn't blow up shit. We see the evidence now that you didn't blow up shit. You might have fractured it or something. You might have touched something, but you didn't do what you really thought you did. Because why can't you stop what they're doing right now? Underestimation. Esau underestimated Elam, and now they're paying the cost, because you did not use patience You didn't put forth the correct observation. All right. So these fools are showing their hand, man. But the lips of the wise shall preserve them. Tying that into us having mouths that nobody can gainsay. And that's coming through the Spirit. That's once again moving through the Spirit. Luke 21:15. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. This is why it doesn't matter if we have a military, it doesn't matter if we have ammo and guns and food and all that type of stuff. Yahawah Shem Yahawashi is with us. He created everything. So he's going to take care of us. The spirit that he put on these Edomites to do what they do, and these Elamites and these Ammonites and these Moabites and these Ishmaelites, all the spirits that's on these individuals is controlled by him. It's like a game of Sims, man. You know, a civilization or Tropicano or Tropico. I play a little bit, you know. These God games, right? That's what it is. They try to interpret, you know, Yahawah or simulate him, but you can't. Because he controls every aspect of every single millisecond of every single day. You know?
Similarly, Lao Tzu wrote, "Those who know do not talk, those who talk do not know." Being quiet helps us learn about the environment and recognize dangers and opportunities that we would have skipped if we were too busy talking. But it also allows us to gather information about ourselves. Often, people are so busy overthinking, worrying, ruminating, and analyzing that they're shutting down the underlying voices that are trying to speak. For example, we may forget to listen to our intuitions, or let our bodily pains tell us about specific health issues, or we block ideas and solutions that are already within us from coming to the surface because our conscious minds generate too much noise. Keeping quiet can also lead to more philosophical, spiritual insights. For example, generally, people tend to identify with their thoughts and thus believe that we are what we think we are, and that the selves we have created in our minds are in fact us.
Boom. And that right there, ooh, that right there jumps into this damn social media life that these people have created for themselves. They start looking at their social media pages, all right, quote unquote bad bitches, all right, Instagram models or these rappers, you know, you take all these pictures at these places, okay, and you start believing that you are that image when you're not that. This is a fabricated, artificial life, man. So you are aligned with Esau. You just like Esau. You're moving just like this devil, man. He's got it in your mindset to lie. Not only lie to people, but you're lying to yourself. You know? Likes, comments, all that shares, that shit does not equal what you are. Okay? That's fake. It's gas. It's the lowest form of gas. You need to, man, we run on E. As the scripture says, do not boast on tomorrow. All right? We take things day by day. All right, let's go. Let me see. I got a precept. It's Jeremiah 4:22. For my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are sottish children. And they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good, they have no knowledge. They don't consider because they're never silent. They're always on the move. You always want to get into something. You can't never sit back, relax, and think and just chill. And then just take it in. But you always got to be doing something. That's what this world is. And they always want to be into something. That's not beneficial to you. Where the finer things in life are the simpler things. But you want to be all up in Esau's, you know, theme parks. Right? Disneyland, all this shit, man. Jake, that's loving that. You go to Disneyland with your kids and your kids get snatched. That's what you wanted though. You know, playing around with this devil. Do not trust thine enemy. Ecclesiasticus 12 and 10. So being patient goes also to a spirit of mourning. We have that. We not everywhere, all up in somebody's face. It's Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 1. A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. It's better for the end of a thing than the beginning. We are waiting for this thing to end. All right? I'm not celebrating. We're not celebrating birthdays and all that. Okay? We want this thing to end, to move into that everlasting body. We tired of the pains and the illnesses and the sicknesses and our body being subject to all this type of stuff that we feel down here in this planet. Verse 2, it is better to go to the house of mourning than to go to the house of feasting, for that is the end of all men, and the living will lay it to his heart. A house of feasting is what? It's full of wine. You know, and that's what? That's philosophies, that's doctrines. All right? Man, I don't know why this shit keep doing it, but it's lucky. But it's full of ways of Babylon, the wine of Babylon, to get you drunk and to keep you drunk. That's what the entertainment distractions is there for. The bread and circus, you know, is there to entertain you, to make you forget about everything else that's going on. You know, going back to the parable of the wise and the foolish virgins, you're using your light to go and participate in all this stuff that you don't supposed to. You're using up the oil in your lamp. And when it comes time that Yahawashi has arrived, you're not going to have enough oil to reach him. Because you were so focused on all this other stuff, because you couldn't be silent and you couldn't be patient. You couldn't be choosy. Life is all about decisions. You got to choose the right decision. Do I need to do this right now? No, probably not. You know?
In Buddhism, thoughts are one of the 5 aggregates, fabrications of the mind we mistake for being ourselves. We are not our thoughts, according to the Buddha. And if we quiet down and observe our thoughts, we'll discover that everything we think, all our ideas, concepts.
And, you don't know all that bullshit. But the fact is, look at Buddha. Buddha was a Jake. And they overthought. They didn't understand. All right? They took him as a god, which we are gods of the earth. But we ain't in a position to be worshipped. Now in the kingdom, we're gonna get the worship, we're gonna get the praise. Okay, we're gonna get the fame. You know, we'll get all that. Alright. But that's all I wanted from that video. I got a little bit over here, and then we'll wrap it up.
Did my silence get your attention? Did it cause anticipation? Is it still causing you anticipation? It's been said that the great legendary Winston Churchill would walk slowly to the lectern prior to giving a speech. He would shuffle his papers, pull down on his lapels, waiting for the audience to grow quiet. Then he would fumble for his spectacles while the audience grew quieter still. The audience was settling into the moment, and Winston knew this. Just as everyone thought the great man was about to speak, he would merely clear his throat, ratcheting up attention, and making the most of silence. The great philosophers are helpful when diving into a deep topic, such as communication.
All right, and taking that and translated it in a sense is Yahawah is the master of this, of course. So you thinking, oh, it's time, man. he pulls back. All right, but we can see, all right, we see certain things that we supposed to see that's coming to pass, so we know it's getting closer. But Yahawah is known as what? Long suffering. So that's the ultimate of patience. He practices the ultimate of patience, man. So his silence is extremely powerful. All right? Because when he does speak, oh, they're going to want him to, they don't want to hear that. They're going to be terrified. Right now, Yahawah is visiting the earth. Okay? And if you're not on his good side, you're going to feel it. So you have what you call a time of liberty, but this is not that time. This is what? Let's go to Acts. He called for all men to what? To repent. This is time for you to get right. This is Acts 17 and 30. And the times of this ignorance power winked at, but now commandeth all men everywhere to repent. So he's been long suffering. He showed patience. He showed everlasting mercy. He's allowed all that. But that time is about to come to an end, to a close. He's about to close the door of the spiritual ark, man. And if you're not in, then you're not in. You're going to have to suffer. It was first by water, now by fire. So you're going to have to suffer in that. Because you didn't have enough patience to endure and wait on him. You tried to make your own salvation, which is whatever you got, temporary salvation. You sold out for $1 million, $2 million, whatever, man. You got the 501(c)(3). You making merchandise. You extorting Israelites, making them pay you this and pay you that. It's all going to come down. So you got a time to get right. You got a time to repent and to convert. And that mercy is there. It's open to you. But you don't want to take it. So you're going to have to feel the effects of that, man. Let a little bit more of this go.
Confucius said that silence is a true friend who never betrays. My favorite philosopher, Lily Tomlin, said that language was only invented to satisfy our inner need to complain. And my father, Mickey Caruso, said that he never learned anything while he was talking. Here's what these people are getting at. We've come to think of silence as a weakness or a vulnerability. We now think of it also as uncomfortable, maybe even undesirable. But the comfort of silence is your gateway to better relationships, more respect, and a rewarding career. And this is coming from me, a guy who used to tour the country in a rock band, making as much noise as he could. These days, as a speaker coach, I teach leaders, salespeople, and influencers how to keep quiet. Ironic, huh? I tell them that silence is a useful communication tool that can cultivate relationships whenever you're dealing with people.
Now I understand. And this also another quote coming from American Gangster, man. Frank Lucas said, the loudest one in the room is a fool. That's just a worldly saying as well. Where Nicky Barnes was the fool. This dude was on Times Magazine. You doing illegal stuff. The CIA, DEA, all these individuals is over you, and you're putting yourself out there, talking about you're putting your business out there, all right. And then furthermore, in that movie, I love that movie, man, where he wore the chinchilla coat, and that goes into even your clothes, your ways has a volume of it, right? He was dressing loud, and then his seat, he had a really good seat. That was a loud statement. You had a fight This is a major fight, you know, and that seat had to cost in the hundreds of thousands, right? How did this individual afford that? So it's going back to us, men of Yahawah, Shem Yahawashi. We live a simple life. We're not searching for no fame or no, credit or none of that. All right, this ain't that time. Like we say, in the kingdom, you'll get all of that. This is not the rest. This is not that time frame where you're going to get credit or any of that. So don't seek it out. All right, Yahawah Hashem Yahawashi is being glorified, and he's being glorified every single time that you do something, that you move forth, and he speaks through you. So keep that in mind and endure with patience. Let's get a precept. This is Luke. Going back to that Luke. And let's start back at 15. For I will give you a mouth and wisdom which all your adversaries shall not be able to gainsay nor resist. Trust in the Spirit. It takes patience to do that. All right? And you should be used to it. It should be a habit of constantly trusting in the Spirit. You know, you're going through a challenge, you're going through an obstacle, and you don't know how you're going to get through it. You got to trust in the Spirit. You got to trust that Yahawah Shem Yahawashi is going to work it out. He works it out. Boom. All right? You got through it. So he's going to do it again. He's going to do it over and over. Verse 16, and ye shall be betrayed both by parents and brethren and kinsfolk and friends, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. And ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. And we're going to be blameless. We're going to be perfect. We didn't do nothing wrong. You're going to come under a lot of fire for accusations and things that you did not commit. Just hate it simply because of the name of Yahawah Shem Yahawashi. All right? And because you don't want to align with this system. Look at what they were saying to people that didn't take the jabby jab. All right? You're putting everybody else at risk. When right now, what did it come out? Hey, that thing causes inflammatory, illnesses. All right, inflammation. I can't talk today. All right, but it causes inflammation, and it stops reproduction. Okay, but hey, they still aligning and co-signing these experiments. This is just the experiment that the government did openly on the entire planet, right? But hey, we was deemed as terrorists or criminals or whatever because we didn't want to take what you took that messed you up. The foolishness. Folly is set in great dignity. Right? Verse 18. But there shall not an hair of your head perish. In your patience possess ye your souls. In your patience possess ye your souls. Yahawashi was what? He was silent. It went Pilate asking him all these questions. I am what they say I am. You already got the information, man. Do what you got to do. Okay? I'm not here to defend myself. I trust on Yahawah Shem Yahawashi to fight my battles. This is Exodus 14 and 14. Yahawah shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. That right, it never expires. Ongoing. Let Yahawah Shem Yahawashi work it out how he worked it out before. If it's his will for you to be under the steel and get took out, then that's his will. He gonna bring you back. You gotta have enough patience to endure and trust in him. You can't be at the last moment backing out. Think about John the Revelator. He was put into a pot of boiling water, but it didn't kill him. Yahawah allowed that to happen. He probably made the water feel cold or something, you know? He allowed him to endure that and to live it out. That was his will. So these challenges and these obstacles, they some of them will seem impossible. Think about the three wise holy children. All right? What they went through. Walking into a furnace, and the furnace is being turned up to the highest level. They're putting more coals on it. They're putting more fuel to the fire. And they walking in there, Yahawashi is with them. And it's all good. So these impossible situations, us being in the midst of the fire, but being brought out. You see how that right there is really a foreshadowing of us being in the midst of this fire and being brought out. You know what I'm saying? The echoes, volumes, man. So I'm going to get a little bit more of this, man. We're going to wrap it up.
Because silence always tells a story.
Damn.
Here's a fun story about how silence speaks volumes. When Brother John joined the monastery, he appeared before the head abbot. The head abbot said to him, "Brother John, this is a silent monastery. You're welcome to stay as long as you like, but you may not speak until I direct you to do so." Brother John was in the monastery a full year before the abbot called for him and said, "Brother John, you've now been with us for 12 months. You may speak 2 words." And Brother John said, "Hard bed." The abbot said, "I'm sorry to hear that. We'll try to improve your accommodations." A year later, Brother John appears before the abbot. He's allowed to say 2 words. This time he says, "Cold food." The abbot said, "We'll try to improve your situation." On his 3rd anniversary at the abbot, he appears at the monastery, he appears before the abbot a 3rd time, and the abbot says again, "You're allowed to say 2 words." And this time, Brother John says, "I quit." And the abbot says, "You might as well. You've been complaining since you got here."
Hey, I'm ending right there. That's a good one. But the fact is, if you trusting in Yahweh, let's go to Ephesians real quick. If you trusting in Yahawah by Hashem Yahawashi, is no reason to complain. Right? There's no reason. This is Ephesians 1:4. "According as he have chosen us in him before the foundation of the world, that we should be holy and without blame before him in love." So it's already been chosen. It's already been written down. The story has already been written. We just living in it. We going off the script. All right? And we rocking with it. That's why, hey, if these individuals ain't meant to get it, then, hey, Yahawah didn't like them in the beginning. He didn't like them in their past life or in their past life before. They were what? They didn't care. Their incredulity. You know, their unbelief. They didn't care. So they've been saying, basically what they saying, honestly, is they saying F his laws. Okay? You know, and you say it to them, and they be like, well, you tell them, hey, you don't supposed to eat pork and all that. And they'll be like, well, basically you saying F his laws, because you saying you don't care what he said for you to do. You can't put it no other way, man. So it's not no love. But I love, he know my heart. Oh, that's not gonna fly. Okay? Your heart, yeah, he know your heart. And it's forward. It's against him. It's contrary. You're not aligned with him at all. You know? You can't be in that way thinking that Yahawah by Hashem Yahawashi is about to save you. You never cared for him, so why is he going to love you? Verse 5, having predestinated us unto the adoption of children by Yahawashi HaMashiach to himself. Yahawashi HaMashiach is the what? Is the way. He is the door. He's the mediator of the new covenant. So if an individual's out here talking about, yeah, it's only Yahawah, then you off. According to the good pleasure of his will. Going back to, do you know the Father's will? You know? This is why when you're fasting, praying, in general, every day, I would say, at least, take 10 minutes of silence, man. Meditate. Just take 10 minutes and just think. It's important. It's good for your mental health. It's good for that relationship. You got to build that relationship and be sincere with your intentions, man, and really love Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi. All right? And get away from the nonsense, the ongoing busy life that Esau wants you to live. This employee slave type life, where he just always got you on the go, on the go, on the go, on the go. So hey, with that being said, facing the east, giving all praises, glory, and honor once again to the Heavenly Father and His Son, Yahawah Ba'ashem Yahawashi Ba'ashem Rakakadash, and double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of the great millstone, which rule well and teach well and sincerely taught us His truth. And shalom to the Lord's hopeful elect. As always, Kwam Yasha'Allah and Abad Babal. Shalom, shalom.